The Porsche's door chime cuts through the shop like a knife, and the man doesn't even look at the woman in grease-stained coveralls. "Where's a real mechanic?" he demands, tapping his key fob like a judge's gavel. She keeps sorting turbo housings with steady hands that carry faint burn scars, her jaw tightening for half a second before smoothing flat. The manager watches, calculating. One insult becomes two. And in moments, the loudest voice in the room learns what silence can do. If you respect stories where skill wins without shouting, subscribe and stay close. One small detail drops onto the concrete, and the entire room's power dynamic flips fast. The high-performance parts shop smells like hot rubber, brake cleaner, and old coffee that's been reheated twice. Fluorescent lights buzz overhead, reflecting off polished intake manifolds lined like trophies behind glass. A radio murmurs classic rock from a dusty speaker, half drowned by the distant whir of an impact gun in the service bay. At the front counter, Sergeant Claire Miller, 29, stands in a Navy work jumpsuit smeared with grease at the thigh and wrist, organizing labeled bins with quiet precision. Her movements look practiced, almost ritual. Measure, place, align. She drags a fingertip across a part number, lips pressing together in a thin line, then relaxing, like she's swallowing a comment before it's born. When she reaches for a housing on the top shelf, her sleeve rides up, and the skin across her knuckles shows pale, tight burn lines. She adjusts the cuff instantly, not hiding, just controlling what gets seen. The bell above the door snaps again. Dalton Hargrove steps in, mid-40s, crisp polo, expensive watch, Porsche crest on his keychain. He scans the room, eyes skipping right over Claire as if she's a display mannequin. "I need someone who actually understands engines," he says, voice loud enough to claim the space. He sets his keys on the counter, clack, like punctuation. Behind him, a waiting customer, Eleanor Price, shifts her weight and watches. Near the bay entrance, veteran technician Russell Givens wipes his hands on a rag, pausing as if he recognizes a familiar kind of arrogance. Claire meets Dalton's gaze for a beat, steady, gray-eyed, unreadable, then turns slightly toward a catalog. "What are you running?" she asks. "Turbo upgrade? Fueling? Track or street?" Dalton laughs through his nose. "Mocha. Go clean something. I want to talk to a man." His mouth curls, and his eyes flick to her coveralls like they're proof of incompetence. Manager Brent Calloway appears from the office, late 30s, gelled hair, collared shirt tucked too tight. His smile is thin and performative. "Sir, I'm Brent," he says quickly, placing his body between Dalton and Claire. Then, without looking back at her, he adds in a clipped tone, "Claire, please go to the back." Claire's throat moves with a controlled swallow. Her fingers pause on the parts bin, just long enough to show restraint, then resume. As she steps away, a small stitched outline presses faintly from her pocket, unseen but there, like a secret with weight, and Russell's eyes follow it, narrowing, as if one missing piece has just slid into place. 2 minutes before the bet. Brent Calloway escorts Dalton Hargrove toward the service bay window like a VIP tour guide. The glass is smudged with fingerprints and a fine mist of coolant residue. Behind it, lifts rise and fall with hydraulic sighs, and the air carries that metallic tang of warm oil meeting cold concrete. Dalton's Porsche sits nose in under harsh LEDs, its white paint almost blue under the shop's lights. Claire Miller moves in the background, quiet, contained, pulling boxes from a shelf in back, her boots making soft, purposeful taps that never hurry. Dalton's voice stays loud on purpose. "I told you what I want. Garrett G30 77 Tau. Not some off-brand junk, and I want it today." He drums his ringed fingers on the counter, tap, tap, then smirks when Claire passes within earshot. "Careful, sweetheart. Don't strain yourself." Eleanor Price watches from the waiting chairs, arms folded, lips parting as if she might say something, then stopping. Her eyes flick to Claire's hands and linger there a beat too long. Russell Givens, the veteran tech, stands near the bay door with a rag in his fist, his brow tightening in a small crease that doesn't leave. His jaw flexes once, the muscle jumping like he's biting back words. Claire sets a box on the counter with a controlled, gentle thud. She doesn't look at Dalton at first. She looks at the invoice pad, the catalog, the part numbers. Then she lifts her gaze, steady. G3770 will fit, but you're going to fight heat soak on that setup unless you redo the intercooler routing, she says. Her tone is even, almost clinical. And your wastegate control will creep if you keep the stock boost solenoid. Dalton laughs, louder this time. Listen to that. She read a forum once. He turns to Brent. You got anyone serious here? Brent's smile tightens. Of course, sir. We'll take care of you. He angles his body again, subtly blocking Claire like she's an inconvenience. Claire, just pull what he asked for and let Russell handle the technical questions. Claire's nostrils flare, tiny, gone in a blink. She nods once anyway, a short, disciplined motion. Russell's eyes lift to hers, and for the first time his expression shifts. Less annoyance, more recognition. He's watching her posture, shoulders squared without trying, stance balanced like she's used to standing on moving ground. In the back, Claire opens the inventory cage. The lock clicks, metal scrapes metal. She reaches up, and as she stretches, the grease on her sleeve pulls tight across her forearm. Her fingers, scarred across the knuckles, move with an exactness that feels rehearsed. She returns carrying a turbo box like it weighs nothing. Dalton barely glances at it. That's not it. Claire places it down and flips the lid. Inside, the exact housing, wrapped, labeled. It is, she says. AR ratio 0.82, anti-surge cover. You'll want a 3.5-inch downpipe to keep EGTs sane on track days. She pauses just a fraction, eyes narrowing as she listens, not to him, but to the shop. And your car? It's already running lean up top. A silence edges in, thin but real. Russell stops wiping his hands. Eleanor leans forward. Dalton's smile stiffens. You don't know what you're talking about. Claire doesn't rise to it. She simply adds, if you're hearing a faint flutter on lift, it's not the turbo. It's your diverter valve starting to stick. Happens when the diaphragm ages. She says it like she's reciting her own phone number. Russell exhales through his nose, almost a laugh, but there's no humor in his eyes, only a sharpened respect. That's specific, he murmurs, mostly to himself. His gaze drops again to Claire's hands. The burn scars aren't cosmetic. They're the kind you earn. Dalton straightens, threatened now. Brent, I'm not paying for whatever this is. Get her away from my car. I want a professional. Brent turns on Claire with a managerial snap, voice low but cutting. Claire, back room, now. His eyes harden, and his mouth pinches like he's proud of the control. Claire's lips press together, one tight line, then soften. She pivots toward the bay, not arguing, just moving. As she walks, something shifts in her pocket. A small stitched edge catches, then slips free. A fabric patch drops to the concrete with a soft slap that somehow sounds louder than the radio. Dalton sees it first. He bends, picks it up between two fingers like it's dirty. His grin returns, mean and delighted. Oh, this is adorable, he says, turning it so the eagle and screaming skull catch the light. When our first airborne? What, you buy this online to look tough? Russell goes still. Color drains from his face so fast it's frightening. His rag hangs forgotten in his hand. Sir? His voice comes out rough, almost reverent. That insignia doesn't sell in a gift shop. Brent blinks, confused, then laughs too quickly. It's probably... Dalton cuts him off, waving the patch. I'll tell you what. He lifts his voice to the room like he's announcing a show. I bet more $500. She can't diagnose my Porsche just by the sound. No scan tool, no touching. She's just here to organize boxes, right? Eleanor's eyes widen. She looks from Dalton to Claire, then to Russell, reading the tension she can't name. Claire reaches for the patch calmly, but Dalton holds it away. Brent's ambition flashes across his face, greed disguised as confidence. He nods once. Deal, he says, too fast. She'll do it. Claire's jaw tightens, a flicker. Then she steps toward the driver's door. Her hands hover. Steady. Russell whispers almost to himself. Don't play with that kind of silence. 15 seconds. Is all Dalton gives her. Claire turns the key. The engine catches. The bay fills with a tight, high idle, a faint rattle hiding under the exhaust note, like a coin trembling in a jar. Claire closes her eyes, not dramatic, just focused, and listens. And the entire shop, without realizing it, holds its breath. Claire Miller keeps her eyes closed as the Porsche idles, and the shop noise thins until it's only combustion, belt whine, and a faint metallic chatter that doesn't belong. Her head tilts a few degrees, an almost imperceptible calibration. The burn scars across her knuckles flex as her fingers curl, then relax. She speaks without opening her eyes. Passenger side timing chain tensioner is bleeding down, she says. You hear that rattle right after catch? It's not lifters. It's a lazy tensioner on cold start. A beat. And your high-pressure fuel pump is starting to starve at the top end. That's why it goes lean. Dalton Hargrove's grin freezes in place, like his face forgets the next step. Brent Calloway's mouth parts, then snaps shut. Russell Givens doesn't move at all. Only his eyes sharpen, tracking her like he's seeing a uniform under grease. Eleanor Price's hand rises to her throat, 2 fingers pressing lightly, as if she's checking her own pulse. Claire opens her eyes. They're gray and steady, and there's no triumph in them, only certainty. She reaches for the patch still dangling from Dalton's pinched fingers. Dalton reflexively pulls back. Don't touch me, he says, voice suddenly smaller. Claire doesn't flinch. Her jaw tightens for half a second, then smooths flat. That patch is mine. Russell's voice comes low, weighted. Ma'am, you are me. Claire's gaze flicks to him and something old and controlled passes between them, recognition without introduction. Yes. Brent laughs once, too bright. Okay, but military or not, this is a parts shop, not a courtroom. Let's just... A sharp smell of hot oil rises as the Porsche's idle hunts for a breath and steadies again. The sound drags Claire somewhere else. Not metaphorically, viscerally. 8 years earlier, Zo2, 10 hours, Kandahar province. The air tastes like dust and burned fuel, gritty between teeth. Floodlights rake across a makeshift pad where Blackhawks sit like wounded animals, skins pocked, rotor blades nicked. The night is loud with distance, sporadic cracks, a low thump that you feel in your ribs before you hear it. Sergeant Claire Miller stands over an engine bay with a headlamp cutting a hard cone of light, her hands already black with soot and hydraulic fluid. A young crew chief, Specialist Travis O'Neill, stares at the damage, swallowing hard. His voice shakes. Sergeant Miller, they're saying we've got 2 hours. Rescue birds gotta launch or 40 guys don't make it out. Claire's answer is immediate, present tense, like a command that leaves no room for panic. Then we make it happen. A mortar lands close enough that the ground jumps. Tools rattle on the metal table. O'Neill flinches. Claire doesn't. Her shoulders square, balanced, planted, military posture that doesn't ask permission. She reaches into the engine compartment, fingers searching by memory, and yanks a shredded line free. Another mechanic, Staff Sergeant Daniel Kincaid, shouts over the noise. We should ground it. That bird's not safe. Claire's eyes narrow, calculating. Her mouth pulls tight at one corner, pain, anger, both contained. It's not safe to leave them out there either, she says. Hand me the spare fitting, now. The work becomes a rhythm. Torque, check, reseat, safety wire. Her hands move with disciplined speed, never wasted, never frantic. The metal is still hot from the last flight. She grips it anyway. Skin sizzles against overheated aluminum, an instant white-hot sting that shoots up her forearm. O'Neill gasps. Sergeant, your hands. Claire inhales through her nose, sharp and controlled. Her eyelid flickers once. She doesn't let go. Wrap it after, she says. Keep feeding me parts. A radio on the table squawks. A commander's voice, tight, urgent. 2 birds are down. We need 3 airborne. Repeat, 3 airborne. Claire looks at the line of damaged helicopters. and then at the clock taped to the table, its second hand sweeping like a threat. Her throat moves in a single swallow. She speaks into the radio, steady as steel. "You'll have 3. The final repair is ugly, improvised, perfect. Safety wire gleams like thin silver veins. Claire's fingers tremble once when she releases the torque wrench, and she hides it by wiping her hands on her pants, smearing grease over fresh burns. When the first rotor spins up, the wash slams into her, hot and violent, sand stinging her face. She squints against it, lips pressed, eyes wet not from tears but from grit. 2 hours later, the rescue birds lift, 3 silhouettes climbing into a bruised sky. Claire watches until they vanish, then finally lets her shoulders drop a fraction. Kincaid steps beside her, voice quieter now. "You just kept them alive." Claire's expression doesn't soften. It hardens into something like a vow. "No," she says. "We did." Back in the shop, the fluorescent buzz returns, harsh and ordinary. Claire blinks once as if the present snaps into focus. Her burn scars ache under imagined heat, and she flexes her fingers, controlled. Dalton still holds the patch like he's unsure whether it bites. Claire extends her hand again. "Give it back." Russell's face tightens with a kind of respect that looks like grief. "That's why your hands look like that," he murmurs. Claire's eyes don't leave Dalton's. "Some people earn what they carry," she says, voice flat. "Others just carry keys." Brent shifts, uncomfortable, sweat starting at his hairline. Eleanor's gaze drops to the patch, then lifts to Claire's posture, straight, balanced, trained. The shop feels different now, like the air itself is waiting. A truth sits just off stage, heavy, approaching. One phone call, one arrival, one voice that doesn't care about Dalton's money. And Claire, still in grease-stained coveralls, stands like she already hears the footsteps coming. In moments, 11:47 a.m. The shop's front door opens again, and the bell's bright ring lands on the silence like a dropped socket. Cold winter air slips inside, carrying the smell of wet asphalt and aftershave. Everyone expects another customer. Nobody expects the shape of authority. 2 men step in. Both are in plain clothes, but the one in front moves like he's still wearing rank. Spine aligned, chin level, footsteps measured. His silver hair is close-cropped. His eyes sweep the room once. Fast, surgical, then lock on Claire Miller as if she's a coordinate on a map. Dalton Hargrove turns with a smug half-smile already loaded. "Hey, if you're here for service, I'm kind of in the middle of..." The man doesn't even look at him. "Sergeant Claire Miller?" he asks, voice calm and unmistakably practiced in command. Claire's throat tightens, just a flicker. Her fingers curl once, then open. "Yes." "Sir," she answers instinctive. The words leave her mouth before she can decide to hide them. Brent Calloway straightens like a puppet yanked upward. Sir, welcome to Calloway Performance. I'm the manager. How can we..." The man steps past Brent without breaking stride. The second man, taller, quiet, scanning, hangs back near the door, watching Dalton's face change color. Russell Givens goes rigid. His rag drops an inch in his hand. His eyes widen with recognition that's almost fear. Eleanor Price rises from the waiting chair, slow, like she doesn't want to make a sound. The silver-haired man stops a foot in front of Claire. The fluorescent lights reflect off something on his beltline when his coat shifts. An ID clip, official, not flashy. He studies her hands for one heartbeat, the burn scars, the grease, the steady control, then his gaze lifts to her eyes. He raises his right hand, a formal salute, crisp, exact. Claire's breath catches. For half a second she hesitates, then her shoulders square as if a steel rod slides into her spine. She returns the salute, equally sharp, even in stained coveralls. The room doesn't breathe. Dalton's mouth opens, then closes. His expensive confidence stutters like an engine starving for fuel. The patch is still in his fingers, and suddenly it looks like contraband. Brent laughs softly, confused. "Sir, What is this?" The man finally speaks to the room. "Major General Andrew Kensington," he says, not boasting, stating fact. His voice stays level, but it carries, the way it does when people obey it. United States Army. Dalton's face drains. He glances down at the patch, then back up, like the letters rearrange themselves into a warning label. General Kensington's eyes cut to the insignia in Dalton's hand. His expression doesn't flare. It cools. You, he says, pointing with 2 fingers, minimal movement. Give that back, now. Dalton's lips tremble with a laugh that dies on arrival. He extends the patch as if it might burn him. It was just a joke. Claire takes it gently, like it's fragile, and tucks it into her pocket with practiced care. Her jaw tightens for a brief second, then smooths. Control. Always control. General Kensington turns to Brent. Are you the one who told her to go to the back? Brent blinks rapidly, Adam's apple bobbing. Sir, she's an employee, yes, but customers... You mean men, Eleanor Price says suddenly, voice sharp enough to cut. She surprises herself. Her hand rises to her mouth after, fingers shaking once. Brent's cheeks redden. Ma'am, that's not... General Kensington raises a palm, silencing him without effort. Then he looks at Claire again, and his eyes soften in a way that looks almost private. I'm in town for a logistics review, he says. I ask for you by name because I hear you're hiding in a parts shop. Claire's shoulders hold, but her eyes flicker, just once, like a soldier hearing an old radio frequency crackle back to life. I'm not hiding, sir. I'm working. Kensington nods, accepting that like it's a creed. Then he turns slightly so the whole room receives what comes next. The best mechanic I ever served, he says. The one who keeps my aircraft in the air when it's impossible. Kandahar, Blackhawks, mortar fire. 2 hours to launch. She makes it happen. Russell exhales, rough and reverent. His chin dips once like a prayer. Dalton stares at Claire as if she changes species in front of him. His voice comes out thin. She fixes helicopters? Claire's gaze meets his, steady, gray, unblinking. Engines are engines, she says. People are the variable. General Kensington continues, each sentence landing like a verdict. I watch her maintain 0 mechanical failures, across deployments where failure means a body bag. I pin an Army Commendation Medal on her because 40 soldiers come home on aircraft she refuses to let die. Brent's hands lift, helpless. Sir, I didn't know. That's the problem, Kensington replies. Not angry. Worse, certain. You don't look. Eleanor's eyes shine. She nods slowly, like something inside her clicks into place. Dalton's Porsche sits behind the glass, immaculate and suddenly irrelevant. He swallows hard, his pupils dart, searching for an exit that doesn't exist. General, I didn't mean... Claire interrupts, quiet. You meant exactly what you said. A new sound enters the shop then. Heavy footsteps from the back office hallway. Someone is arriving. Someone Brent can't posture for. Someone with keys to more than a Porsche. And the second man by the door lifts a phone to his ear, murmuring, He's here. She's confirmed. The air tightens. The room leans forward without moving. 7 minutes after the salute. The back office door swings open hard enough to rattle the framed dyno charts on the wall. The smell of printer toner and stale cologne spills out with it. A man steps through, late 50s, broad-shouldered. Silver at the temples, shop owner confidence that doesn't need volume. Graham Whitaker takes in the scene in one sweep. Dalton Hargrove hovering near his Porsche like a threatened peacock. Brent Calloway sweating through his collar. Eleanor Price standing rigid with her hands clenched. Russell Givens frozen like he's watching history happen. Then Whitaker's gaze lands on Major General Andrew Kensington. Whitaker's eyebrows lift, quick, respectful. General, didn't expect you in my shop. Kensington's reply stays simple. I'm not here for you. He turns slightly, palm open toward Claire. I'm here because Juan Miller Juan is being treated like she's invisible. Claire stands behind the counter, grease on her cuffs, patch secured in her pocket now. Her chin is level, but a tiny muscle jumps near her jaw, then goes still. She doesn't look at Brent. She looks at the owner, waiting. Whitaker's eyes narrow. He steps closer to Brent, voice low enough that it feels like a private sentence until it isn't. Brent, tell me you didn't put her in the back because a customer wanted a man. Brent's mouth works, searching for a version of reality that saves him. His lips thin, his eyes flick to Dalton, begging for backup. I was managing the customer experience, he says. Keeping things smooth. That's my job. Dalton clears his throat, trying to buy control with money. Look, this is getting dramatic. I came in for a turbo. I don't need... He gestures vaguely at the general, the salutes, the silence, all this military theater. Russell's nostrils flare, his hands tighten around his rag until the fabric twists. Eleanor's eyes harden, her shoulders square as if she's borrowing Claire's spine. Whitaker doesn't look at Dalton yet. He keeps his stare on Brent. Your job is to run a performance shop, he says, each word measured. Not a boys' club. Brent's voice rises, defensive. She's good with inventory, but Russell handles diagnostics. That's how it's always been. Claire's fingers curl once on the counter edge, knuckles whitening, then release. Controlled, disciplined, like she refuses to give them the satisfaction of watching her shake. Kensington steps in, calm but final. She is responsible for 0 mechanical failures across like 500+ combat missions. Why? I personally oversee. He looks at Whitaker. You want diagnostics? She can identify a failing component in 15 seconds by sound. Dalton laughs once, thin and brittle. Anybody can get lucky? Play it back, Claire says quietly. The words land soft, but the room obeys them. Russell moves before anyone else can, walking to the bay window. He starts the Porsche again, just a brief cycle. The engine catches, idles, and that faint rattle whispers under the exhaust note exactly where Claire says it lives. Russell's eyes widen a fraction. His mouth goes tight like he hates how right she is. He shuts it off and looks at Whitaker. She's right, he says, voice rough. Dead on. Whitaker finally turns to Dalton. The owner's expression stays polite, but his eyes go cold. Sir, you owe my employee an apology. Dalton's face flushes hot, then drains pale. His gaze flicks to the general's rank-bearing posture, and then to Claire's burn-scarred hands. He swallows, his Adam's apple bobs. If she's so important, he mutters, why's she sorting parts? Claire answers before anyone can. Her eyes don't blink. Because loud people confuse attention with value, she says. And I'm tired. A beat. Just long enough for everyone to feel what that tiredness costs. Whitaker's jaw flexes. He points to Brent, 2 fingers like a wrench tightening. Office. Now. Brent steps back, palms out. Graham, come on. We can talk. We are talking, Whitaker says. His voice sharpens. You're done here. Effective immediately. Brent's eyes go wide, then narrow with panic. A red blotch crawls up his neck. You can't fire me because a general. I'm firing you because you disrespected talent, Whitaker cuts in. And because I'm realizing how many jobs you've cost this shop by letting your ego screen the front counter. Eleanor exhales. A shaky release she doesn't realize she's holding. She looks at Claire with something like regret. I should have said something sooner, she whispers. Claire's expression softens for half a second, just the smallest easing around the eyes, then returns to steady. You're saying it now, she replies. Whitaker turns to Claire. The air in the shop feels different, cleaner, sharper, like a bay door finally opens. Claire, he says, voice gentler, I built this place to be the best, and I put you in the shadows. Claire's shoulders remain squared, but her throat moves in a single controlled swallow. I didn't ask for special treatment, she says. I'm not offering special, Whitaker answers. I'm correcting stupid. He nods toward the service bay. You're my new technical lead. You set standards, you train, you sign off. Russell's face breaks into a tight, proud grin that doesn't quite hide the sting in his eyes. He dips his chin to Claire, soldier to soldier. "About time, Sergeant." Dalton stands stranded, keys clenched in his fist like they're suddenly worthless. The room's power has already moved away from him, and he can feel it. Kensington steps closer to Claire, lower voice now. "You never needed a stage," he says, "but you deserve one." Claire's jaw tightens, one flicker, then steadies. "Copy that, sir," she says. And as Brent is escorted toward the office with his shoulders collapsing inch by inch, Dalton watches the woman he dismisses become the authority he can't buy. 3 weeks later, the shop feels rebuilt from the inside out. Morning light pours through the bay door in clean gold bands, catching floating dust and the gleam of freshly organized tools. The radio stays low. The air smells like citrus degreaser instead of burnt coffee. Claire Miller stands at the main counter now, sleeves rolled to mid-forearm, burn scars visible and unhidden. She wipes her hands on a rag, jaw relaxed, eyes alert, quiet authority in motion. Eleanor Price returns for a follow-up, watching Claire calmly train a new hire. "You run this place different," Eleanor says, voice softer than before. Claire's mouth tightens at one corner, then eases. "Different isn't the goal," she replies. "Accurate is." The door chime rings again, and Dalton Hargrove steps in without his swagger. His shoulders sit lower, his gaze avoids the glass display like it remembers him. He clears his throat. "Sergeant Miller." "Claire, I owe you an apology." His lips press together, then part. "I was wrong." Claire studies him a beat, then nods once. "Competence doesn't have a gender," she says, wiping her palms clean. "It just demands a sacrifice most people aren't willing to make." Beyond the individual experience of Claire, the reality of women in military maintenance roles is anchored in documented historical patterns. In 2016, the U.S. military opened all combat jobs to women after the Pentagon lifted the direct ground combat exclusion, Department of Defense. By 2021, women make up about 17% of the active duty force, DoD demographics. Integration expands opportunity, but bias in technical fields remains a persistent barrier, requiring continued awareness and reform. Dalton swallows, nods, and leaves lighter than he arrives. Claire turns back to the bay, and for the first time, the silence feels like peace. If this kind of earned respect matters to you, subscribe for more true-to-life reckonings where quiet skill wins. Comment where you're watching from, and who deserves recognition today.